What's going on, guys? Tyler here, and today we're going to be answering one of the most common questions that people have when they're having panic attacks or anxiety for the first time. And that question is, your first panic attack versus your 100th or your 1000th panic attack, how are they different? Do they feel the same, or is it just a completely different feeling on your 1000th panic attack than it was for your first panic attack? So let's dive right in. Your first panic attack, I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, is going to be the scariest panic attack you ever have. I obviously am speaking for myself here, but I think most of you guys would probably agree. That first panic attack, you don't know what's happening, you don't know what's going on. For those of you guys who've been subscribed for a while, you probably already know my story. But my first panic attack happened when I was 15 or 16 years old. I thought I was having a heart attack. I laid down on the couch, freaking out, begging my parents to call me an ambulance because I fully thought I was gonna die. I had been having little heart palpitations for a while, so I had some health anxiety associated with that. But one day I had one of those little flutters while talking to my mom, and I just freaked out. It wasn't my mom's fault. She wasn't doing anything to stress me out, but I freaked out. I literally thought I was gonna die. Begged my parents to call an ambulance. Probably took me 10 minutes plus. I don't know how long it probably was a lot more than that, but it all just happened so fast. But that was the scariest day of my life. And I've been in a lot of scary, dangerous situations. That was the scariest day of my life. So I think your first panic attack, if you're worried now because you just had your first panic attack and you're on this YouTube video because you're like, what am I gonna do? I don't wanna feel that ever again. The good news is that first one is probably gonna be the worst. The bad news is the next couple of dozen are gonna suck pretty bad. But the good news is you are in the right place. On this YouTube channel, on this website, we talk all the time about different coping mechanisms for panic attacks. So do make sure that you hit subscribe down below and also hit that notification bell so that you're the first to know about new videos that come out. Because we cover coping mechanisms and lifestyle changes that help to reduce your baseline levels of anxiety all the time. So this can really help you kind of make that progress from that first panic attack to feeling like you're a champ at it and you know how to get those feelings under control ASAP. Now, your 100th panic attack, let's say, versus your first panic attack. I would say my 100th panic attack, actually I would say my first year with panic attacks, I probably had a few hundred panic attacks in that year alone. So I would say for a lot of people, your 100th panic attack might still be very scary. Panic attacks in general are always going to be scary because we're so anxious that fight or flight switch in our brain is on, telling us we're panicking, our life is at risk here, because it truly believes that. So you are gonna throw all logic out the window and feel like you're going to die a lot of the times, or feel like you just have to absolutely escape whatever situation you're in. Now, this is gonna be terrifying. It's gonna be a really bad feeling. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's still not gonna be as bad as that first panic attack because now we know that it's just a panic attack. My first panic attack I thought was a heart attack. If, by my 10th panic attack, obviously I didn't think this was my 10th heart attack. I knew that this was just anxiety at that point, so it made it a lot easier to deal with. Did it suck? Yes. It was horrible. I was still terrified. But there's a reason I don't remember my 10th panic attack, but I remember my first. And that's because the first was so much worse. Your first panic attack is gonna take the cake. Your 10th panic attack, your 100th panic attack, you're gonna know what you're dealing with. And if you're smart, you're gonna take steps to actually learn how to better understand your panic attacks, better understand your anxiety, and what kind of lifestyle habits make them worse, because there are things that you're gonna be doing. I know a lot of people like to take the cop out and say, this is just the way my brain is, but there's actually things you do all throughout the day that alter your brain's chemistry and the way that you kind of are able to adapt to the feelings that anxiety brings on. So I know for myself, this includes things like dietary changes. I know that there's certain foods I can eat that are gonna make me feel more anxious. I know that if I am out drinking, I'm gonna feel more anxious for the next 48 hours afterward with that hangover and that just having my GABA levels depleted, I'm gonna feel a lot more anxious. Certain social situations, certain stressors that I can cause in my own life, that I know what I need to avoid and what I need to do to keep those anxiety levels down and reduce the likelihood of me ever even having those panicky feelings in the first place. But if they come up, that's why your 100th panic attack isn't quite as bad. You should know at this point different coping mechanisms that are gonna help you get them under check. Like I said, if you don't, subscribe down below and we'll teach you them. But yeah, that 100th panic attack shouldn't be as bad. And your 1000th panic attack, you shouldn't even have a 1000th panic attack. I'm gonna be honest, that's my opinion. I've probably had hundreds, but you shouldn't let it get to the 1000th because there's no reason to. I know that there are gonna be people mad about me saying that in the comments down below. I know people are gonna say, I've had thousands of panic attacks. You don't know what you're talking about. My panic attacks are getting worse. But here's the thing. You can take control of these things, of these feelings without medication or anything like that. There are all kinds of helpful coping mechanisms and therapy and different strategies you can take to get your anxiety down. So I truly don't believe that you should let it get to the point where you're having thousands of panic attacks. If you do have a 1000th panic attack, I would think by this point you know your panic attacks very well and they're not as scary. But if you're saying that your 1000th panic attack is still just as scary as your first, you really need to take a closer look at how you're dealing with your panic attacks, because that should not be the case. Myself, I will tell you, I had a panic attack relapse, let's say, a couple of years back. So years after I had thought I completely crushed my panic attacks, years later, I started to have a couple again. It was a really hard year for me. I was under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and just had a lot going on. And I guess I kind of cracked just a little bit, just enough to let anxiety come in. And then all of a sudden one day I started having a panic attack and I was like, oh my God, I forgot how bad this feels. It's been so long since I've had this. So yeah, that panic attack, let's say it was my, I don't know, 400th, 500th panic attack. I don't know what it was, but it snuck up on me and I was like, wow, I forgot how terrible that is. But the good news was I already had all that information that I learned the first time around, all those coping mechanisms, all those kind of strategies, and I still knew my own body, my own mind well enough to know, okay, I'm panicking right now, but this is just a panic attack, and this is how I get it under control. I do X, Y, Z, and this will help me to calm down. So first panic attack, 100th panic attack, 1000th panic attack, you're gonna be learning along the way different ways to deal with these things. So you're gonna become a panic attack expert. You should be becoming an expert at your own brain, at your own body, and knowing how your brain, your body, and your anxiety all work in conjunction with one another. A panic attack is always going to be scary, but the difference is going to be how quickly you're able to get it under control and how intense you actually let it get. If I had a panic attack, I won't ever say that I'm immune to panic attacks, because you never know what can happen. I consider myself an expert on panic attacks, but that doesn't mean I'm immune to them. If I had a panic attack right now, the good thing is I know that I can quickly get it under control, so I wouldn't be afraid. I know that I have enough experience with these things that I can get it under control like that, as opposed to my first panic attack where I was just freaking out off the rails, thought I was gonna die. So that's the good news. You guys can get there. You might have a lot of panic attacks, but the more panic attacks you have, the more of a panic attack expert you are. So there's that. They should be shorter and less intense over time. If they're not, there's a component that you're probably missing. So make sure you watch more of these videos, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you do your research and really try to adjust different variables in your life that can play a big role in decreasing your anxiety. Now that's all I have for you guys today. I want to hear your opinions though as well. Have your panic attacks gotten better over the years, or do you find that they're just as bad? But really think about this before you answer, because like I said, they are always going to be scary. The question is, are they getting a little shorter, a little bit less intense? Are there any tactics you've found to help you deal with your panic attacks? How many do you think you've had? Let us know below. And if you're new here, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's great to have you here, and I will catch you next time.